All right, so, there are 23 CSU campuses, the furthest north being now Cal Poly Humboldt. They actually just changed their name as of the 26th of January. So if you didn't know, they're now Cal Poly Humboldt. And then it stretches as far down as San Diego State University. And if you haven't followed our Instagram, you should try looking into that. We do, host other workshops. We will be having a financial aid workshop, or we have 3 of them in at the end of this month. And the reason you should be attending those is because we talk about funding opportunities or what funding looks like in grad school. So maybe you are applying currently and you haven't filed your FAFSA yet. A lot of people are under the misconception that there is no funding available for grad students, which is a huge misconception. There are, grants at the Cal State level that students can qualify for. They say, oh, my parents make too much. And, I actually go really in depth into what that looks like. I even go step by step into the FAFSA application. So I thoroughly encourage you folks to attend that if you can, all right? We also have Grad School 101. So many students ask, what can I do with a master's degree or a graduate degree? We have the career specialists from the Career Center who actually come out to these workshops, and they talk a little bit about that, about what you can do with a master's degree, and they answer any questions you might have. So we have, the College of NSM, ECS, HHD, and HSS, and then we have one for all majors. We have Laura Neal, who actually will be there. She's been with Cal State Fullerton for, I want to say, 20 plus years. And so she's pretty well versed, within every college and major that there is out there. So just to kind of give you a little rundown about what we will be discussing today, it's, what does applying to grad school at CSUF look like? How do you apply to the university? And how does that differ from applying to the program? Some programs do have applications that are not on the Cal State Apply website. So you apply first to, on Cal State Apply, and then you apply separately. So I'll go over what that means, and then application materials that they might ask you for. And then what it means to talk to an advisor, why it's important, why you might want to do that, what an application cycle means. So for those of you who are currently, third-year students, or maybe who might want to be taking a gap year, what is an application cycle? What does that mean? Why it's important to know when those start and when those end, and then what happens next after you apply, which includes, accessing your portal, and then any contact information you might want to hold on to if you're applying to Cal State Fullerton. So just to kind of give you, again, a brief overview of the Cal State system, it is 23 campuses. The CSU, so California State University, it is considered technically one university. It's a system of four-year higher education. We're the largest four-year higher education system in the nation, with 23 campuses, 56,000 faculty and staff, nearly 500,000 students. And it was started in the 1960s to provide affordable, high-quality education to the working class population in California, and it's been committed to provide opportunities to basically put people into the workforce, including teachers, researchers, and basically job-ready graduates. So that's the goal of the CSU. And so there are about 55,000 graduate students enrolled in the CSU as of the fall of 2021. The California State University system offers 258 master's degree programs, and about a third of all master's degrees in the state have been awarded from a CSU. So that's pretty astronomical, for what the CSU has to offer. So kind of moving forward, to apply to CSUF, to Cal State Fullerton, you have to apply in a two-step process. You have to meet what's called CSU eligibility, and then you have to meet your program or department standards. So every program is allowed to meet or to establish their own requirements. So that's kind of like, how there's like the federal minimum wage, and then the states have their own minimum wage. It's kind of like that. So the CSU has their own standards, and then the program can set higher standards above that. So that's kind of what that looks like. So the CSU's admission standards are set at one bar, and then the program can set an even higher bar for what they want their admission standards to look like. So how does that look like? What does that mean? So when you apply to the university, you submit your application through CalCit Apply, which I'll be going over with in depth today. We're going to go step by step by step. So for those of you who are applying this semester for the fall, we're going to go ahead and go over that so you can, pull up your application. And for those of you who are applying for next year, not for fall 2022, but for fall 2023, please do stick around because your cycle, I'm going to talk about what the cycle looks like. Your cycle is going to be opening up pretty soon here, so please do stick around. I'm going to talk about that too. You're going to submit the application via CalCit Apply, and you're going to submit any required documents to the university, which includes any transcripts from every single university you've ever attended. So even if you only took one class at a community college in the summer, you need to submit that as well, because those will show up that you've taken them at some point in time. You're going to submit, if you're required to submit language scores, say for example, maybe you're an international student, you also need to submit those as well. If you took classes like overseas or anything like that, you need to submit those. So that's part of the process. To applying, that's just applying, and that's not even including like the admission standards. So the admission standards, you have to have completed a bachelor's degree from an accredited 4-year university. You must be in good academic standing from the university that you last attended. You have to have at minimum a 2.5 GPA in either your overall GPA or the last 60 or 90 semester or quarter units. So if you're on the semester system, which CSUF is, it's the last 60 semester units. So there are a lot of students who say, I don't think I can get into grad school because my GPA is lower than a 2.5. Because they did really, really poorly on their first 2 years of undergrad. And so their GPA might be like a 2.4 or a 2 point, something. And so they don't take into account, well, what are your last 60 units? And I've sat down and talked to them and said, well, your last 60 units is like a 3.0. And your first 6 units or whatever, the first 2 years, you're like a 2.0. So we look at those and I say, you can get into grad school. We look at those. I've sat down with students, and so a lot of students have that misconception that they can't get into grad school. So it's important that you really take into account that requirement too. And so also you meet any professional, personal, and other standards that might be required, for example, like GRE or any prerequisite courses that any campus might put into that requirement. So say, for example, some campuses will implement the GRE requirement, or some campuses might declare impaction on certain programs where they say only certain people can apply to these programs. So for example, like nursing programs are really, really rigorous, and they might declare, a higher standard. So those are something that you might want to consider as well. So it's just a CSU requirements, and that begs the question, the program requirements. So once again, just a breakdown, just a brief overview to what it means to be CSU eligible. Again, bachelor's degree in hand or nearly completed. So that means if you're applying to attend for the fall, your bachelor's degree needs to be completed by the spring before you're planning to attend. If you're planning to attend in the spring, your bachelor's degree needs to be completed by the fall prior to attending. And I see I have a question. So if you're already attending a CSU, do you have to reapply for grad school? Yes, you do have to reapply because you're basically pursuing a whole brand new degree. And you've already completed the degree. Basically, once you complete your degree, you're no longer considered a student. You're done with the program, you're done with the university. So if you're considered alumni status, and if you are planning to apply for grad school, you're applying for a different degree. So it's important that you you're in the process of applying for that degree. So again, CSU eligibility, bachelor's degree in hand. So this is really important for those of you to pay attention. You have to have your bachelor's degree in hand. If you are taking summer classes this summer and you want to attend in the fall, for example, most programs will not let you do that. You have to have your bachelor's degree in hand by the spring. So it's really important that you know that. or that you check with the program. And that goes to, kind of into talking to the graduate advisor for your program. Can I apply to grad school if I'm finishing in the summer? Some programs are totally okay with it. Some programs are like, no, you have to be done by the spring. We want you to be done by the spring. So really important for you to check with them because they want you to have your bachelor's degree in hand by the spring. Most programs will. So again, make sure you double check with that. And so that means, how do you apply to the program? So how does that differ from applying to the CSU? What are the requirements? What does that all mean? You need to make sure you're checking the department website for the information. Make sure that you reach out to the grad program advisor. So every single program has a grad advisor at Cal State Fullerton. Not every school will have one, but every single program at Fullerton does. Make sure that you're checking out Cal State Apply for the program materials section. The program materials section does have a breakdown. A lot of students overlook that. I have a lot of students who email me and they say, I don't know where to find this. I don't know where to find that. And it's in that section of the application, but they don't look at it. And so I'll show you where to find that. And so it's really important that you're paying attention to that section because that gives you step-by-step all the important links or information. A lot of students say, I don't know where to find this part of the application, but the application says you need to reach out to the department so that you can talk to someone before you even get this piece of paper or this link. I know a lot of the arts programs, you can't even apply to the arts programs if you don't see an advisor. Because they're very, very strict with their applications. You have to, and that goes to question their program materials because you have to submit a portfolio. So that goes back into like the program materials. So possible program materials include, the program application, which might be a form. It might be a different website that you might have to go to. I know the comm disorders program, they have to go to an external website through what's called CIDCAS, which is CSDCAS. And I'll show you, some of you might be applying to that, and I'll show you all what that looks like. Some might have to send transcripts to the program and transcripts to the university. Some might have to send, GRE or GMAT test scores, especially if you're in business. Some might have you send in letters of recommendation. Some might ask you for writing samples, personal statements, and statements of purpose. And there's a difference between personal statements and statements of purpose. And it's really important that you know the difference between the two. So say, for example, a personal statement is like, what have you done that's gotten you to this point in time, versus a statement of purpose, which is, what are you going to do within this program and after you're done? What is this program going to help you accomplish? So it's really important that you know the difference between the two. Some programs, again, will have you do an interview, an audition, or submit a portfolio. Again, the arts programs are some of these programs that have you do that. So it's really important that you know the step-by-step process, and then you check that program material section on Cal State Apply, because that's going to have that breakdown. Sometimes you might not be able to find the other information elsewhere unless you check that section, because that's going to be the first place you're going to have to check. So it's going to be on if you check on Cal State Apply, there's that section with the personal statement and statement of purpose. So those might be the two different things that you need to pay attention to understand the difference. If you're a CSUF student, believe it or not, the Career Center actually does revisions for those. You can actually set up an appointment with the Career Center. Even if you take a gap year, you can actually see them for up to a year after you graduate for them to revise those. Some programs ask for a resume, but you can see the Career Center for up to a year after you graduate for them to revise those documents. So as an alum, you have up to a year to set up an appointment and be like, I'm applying to grad school. I need help with my statement of purpose or personal statement. Can you help me revise it? You have a year for that. So for those of you who might say, I'm not sure if I'm ready to apply to grad school now, but I'm graduating this semester, how long do I have to utilize the grad school as a resource, or the Career Center as a resource? You have up to a year. So just so you know. By the way, fun fact, I went to high school with this girl. So that begs the question. So make sure you go see the graduate program advisor. And the reason I say this is That's so you can understand what exactly they want from you in your program application. Some students get confused with, word counts in their personal statements or statement of purposes. Some students are confused about where to find certain documents or certain components of the application, the interview process. It's really important that you go and talk to the graduate advisor if you're confused at any point in time. Another plus that's really important about the graduate advisor is if you get your name out there, if you go and talk to them, at some point in time, your application might land on their desk. And if they know your name, if they know, that they helped you out, if they know that you've seen them, it might be to your advantage at some point. Because at the end of the day, they do have a final say in the admission process, and it could help your application. So I always say, go and talk to the graduate advisor. They might end up being your best friend throughout this process. So please make sure that for your department, you're going and talking to the graduate advisor at any point in time. If you don't know who that is, you can always reach out to me and I can help you find out who that is. I can refer you to them. So, don't be afraid to reach out. That's what I'm here to help you do. And so that begs the question, what is an application cycle? So we're in the middle of an application cycle. The admissions for the fall, for this upcoming fall of 22, started on October 1st. Every program will have a different deadline. Some deadlines were like January 14th, January 15th. Some programs, I've seen the latest June 1st. So again, we're in the middle of a cycle right now. I know that there is a spring cycle as well. However, that's not opening up until August 1st. And not every single program has a spring cycle. Some programs only have fall cycles. So if you're planning to apply, for example, for fall of 2023, so say maybe you graduate spring 23, and you're looking to apply for that following fall, your application cycle will open up in October. That's coming up this following October. So it's really important, that you're attending these workshops, that you know when the deadlines are. So say, for example, you also need to apply for FAFSA. If you're applying currently as we speak and you haven't filed for FAFSA, the deadline is in less than a month for FAFSA. Make sure you file your FAFSA as well. So, make sure you're keeping these things in mind. But if you're applying, for fall of 23, your deadlines, your cycle opens up in October. So just remember that. And every program will have a specific deadline. And where do you find the program deadlines? Cal State Apply will have them listed. However, there are some key things to look out for. For example, maybe a program has a priority deadline. So what is a priority deadline? It means that maybe the program will start looking at applications on a specific date, and those students will get prioritized for admission, and they'll just accept students until they fill out the program. And so maybe they filled out the program with the priority students, but they're still taking in applications, and every single student after that priority deadline will get rejected or waitlisted until students accept their admission. And so it's kind of pointless to submit your application after the priority deadline because you might not get in. So it's really important to pay attention to those, and I'll give you examples. I'll show you what that looks like. Not every program has a priority deadline, by the way. There's only a couple programs that I've seen that do that. One here at Fullerton, and I've seen one at Long Beach as well. So it's really important you understand that. So again, application cycle is really important to know that. Not every program has a spring admission cycle. So if you graduate in the fall, I know some students who do graduate in the fall and they say, well, can I apply for the spring? It says, well, your program doesn't have a spring admission cycle. So you have to take off that whole spring semester and wait until the fall. So again, keep in mind those things. So what happens after you apply? So after you apply, of course, you get assigned a CWID. Or if you're applying to a different campus, you're going to be assigned their version of a CWID, which, for example, say you're applying to Cal State LA, you're going to be assigned a CIN, so a campus ID number. If you're applying to, say, for example, Cal State Bakersfield, it's called a CSUB ID. At Fullerton, it's just called a CWID. They each have their own version of the name, and they're all going to be different, like sequences. But you're going to be assigned that number. And that's going to give you access to your portals. So each campus has a respective portal, and they all pretty much, they all do the same thing. They all notify you of maybe any paperwork that you need to submit, any documents related to financial aid, any of that kind of stuff. And then you are going to be given campus emails. Again, so it's going to be the same process as when you applied as college students, whether you were a student or a transfer student. It's going to be the same or similar process. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you use email addresses when you're applying that you still have access to, and I'll show you how to update those on Cal State Apply as well. So again, make sure that you are able to access those portals, because those are going to be the main hubs of communication. That's the first place where you're going to see your admissions letters, where you're going to see if you need to submit financial aid paperwork. Sometimes students get selected for verification. That's where they're going to tell you, here's where you submit this paperwork for verification. I see something in the comments. So yes, you will get a link after when I upload this with the YouTube video. So I do upload these to YouTube. One thing to keep in mind, you will always have the same CWID forever and ever and ever and ever. I'll give you a really good example is when I was applying to colleges as a freshman back in 2010, I was given a CWID. And now this is what, about 12 years later, my CWID from when I was applying to colleges to be a freshman is the same CWID I have now working for the university 12 years later. So again, that same CWID back then is the same CWID I have now. So just kind of keep that in mind, that your same CWID is going to be the same CWID basically forever. So I just want you all to kind of like say, what if I get a different CWID, or what if I get a different campus email? It's going to be the same one. So don't be too confused about having to memorize a whole different CWID. It's going to be the same one. So don't be too scared about that. Sorry. So here are some important offices that you might want to take a picture of or write down. The first one is the Office of Admissions. They are going to be the people who receive, your transcripts when you submit them. Of course, if you're currently a CSUF student, you don't need to submit official transcripts to the university. They have everything on file. From any community colleges you might have attended, the only time you have to submit anything to the university in regard to transcripts is if you've attended a different community college that you haven't submitted transcripts for between the time you started at CSUF and the time that you're graduating. So maybe you took a summer course and you just never submitted transcripts. That's the only time you have to submit transcripts, all right? Other than that, if you're reapplying to CSUF and that's like the only school you're submitting them to, then you're good. You don't have to worry about submitting transcripts. You might have to submit unofficial transcripts to your program. And those, you basically go to your Titan portal and you go to student records and you just save it as a PDF, your unofficial transcript, and you just upload it. And then Office of Financial Aid, you should ideally have that number and email, saved somewhere in case you need to reach out to them, in case you get selected for verification. But the Office of Grad Studies, they're going to be pretty much, one of your best friends throughout this whole entire process. They can, if you email the Grad Studies Recept email, they can forward your email to whoever it needs to go to. If you have a question, you can submit it to them, and they will pretty much forward it to, the relevant office, and the relevant office will email you back. So just keep that in mind. I'll go ahead and leave that up for just a second. And then I'll go ahead and move forward. So then this is the contact info for my program project upgrads, grad advising at fullerton.edu. And then fullerton.edu/graduate/upgrads. And so again, we do have other workshops, including, the financial aid one, Grad School 101. If you wanted to sign up for those, the financial aid one is really important if you haven't filed your financial aid for the fall, or if you're interested in seeing what kind of funding opportunities are out there for grad students, what loans look like for grad students, that kind of a thing. I talk about, financial literacy. A lot of students are really scared about taking out student loans, what that looks like, what the repayment process looks like. I do briefly touch on that. So if you are interested in going to one of those, please check that out. And so now I do also want to in a second share this QR code. Before I go on to Cal State Apply, I will have a survey that I hope you all take at the end of the workshop, but you can scan this now and take it later. And I'll post a link later, but please do take this. It does help me a lot because again, we are funded through a grant. We want to make sure that after the grant ends that the university does help in taking over the funding for this program. And this helps with that. And then, so I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the Cal State Apply website. If you do not have this link to the website, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat, just in case you want to kind of see it in real time. And I'm going to go ahead and share that website again. So this is what the website looks like. It's pretty simple. You scroll down, and when you scroll down, it's going to ask you where you want to apply. But say, for example, you want to go ahead and see when your program's deadline is for that year. You're going to click see application dates and deadlines. You can scroll down, and it's going to ask you entry level. You're going to click graduate, master's, and doctorate, and choose a term and select the term you're going to apply for. So I'm going to choose fall 22. You don't have to worry about this one, and then click submit. And then so you scroll down because it popped up down here, and you click on the campus that you want to go to. So when you see, okay, Fullerton, and then you click on see notice, every single program pops up. And it tells you the deadline. I don't know why some of them are there twice, but they're there. Just so you all know, okay? But moving on to that, you select the term you want to apply for. So we're going to select fall 22 and then apply. And it takes us to this website, which some of you might have seen before when you applied either as transfer students or as first-year students. If you have an account and it's still active, you would ideally use the same account. If your account is no longer active, or if you don't remember the username or password, you can set up a new one, all right? So when you're here, it's going to take you to this screen. It's either going to take you here, or it might take you to this page. If it doesn't take you to this page and it takes you to this page, you're going to want to navigate up here to where it says my profile. And you're going to want to double check this section. It's really important that you do. The reason I say this is I want everyone who might be there now, or everyone who, in the future when you're at the site, make sure you check your email address. Make sure that it is the most updated, most recent, or the one that you use most frequently that is not a campus email. Because if you lose access to the email, or it's an email that maybe it's like your spam email, don't use that email, because you don't want any of those communication emails to go to that email inbox. Because this is where your, remember how I told you that you're going to get an email with your portal information? For example, say you're applying to like San Diego State or Long Beach or Cal State LA. Those are where those emails are going to go to. Like, this is how you log into the portal. So you don't want those emails going to like a spam inbox that you don't utilize. So make sure, please, that you're using like your most up-to-date email that you only use for important things. All right, and then update it. Make sure that you save changes. Again, make sure that that's all up to date. Then once you do that, you save everything, everything looks good, everything checks out, you're going to go to extended profile. And this is what degree, credential, or certificate are you applying for? It might have checked off this one, but the one I want you all to look for is this one, which is second bachelor's degree and beyond. So when you check that, it's going to say, please select one or more of the following degree goals. So many of you are going to be checking off graduate, so master's, doctoral, or professional degree. Some of you might be checking off teaching and service credential only. So make sure that you check the one that pertains to you. And then you're going to scroll down. If you, have served in the U.S. military, check, select the one that pertains to you. This is really important because a lot of people, like someone had asked if you're going to apply to the same campus, or if you're going to want to go to grad school, do you have to reapply? Yes, you do, but here's an ask you, are you planning to return to the CSU campus which you previously attended and intend to complete the same degree? You're going to want to select no. So you only select yes if you have already started grad school and you're going back to complete the degree. Maybe, for example, you stopped attending. Maybe you decided to start a family, and you didn't file a proper leave of absence, so you got dropped from your program. Or maybe, for example, you lost a relative during COVID and you didn't file a proper leave of absence and you got dropped from your program. Those are instances where people want to return to grad school and they're reapplying to the same campus. Those are very, extraneous circumstances, and they are, they say, okay, I want to return back to Fullerton because I already started a degree, I got halfway done and I want to reapply. So they would select yes. In that case, they say which CSU campus did you previously attend and what was your student ID? Again, every campus has their own version of a student ID, but most of you are not in that situation. I'm assuming maybe none of you are, but again, everyone has their own situation. But for you folks, many of you are going to select no. Most of you should ideally select no. And then, save changes. And then it says, for me, this is just because this is a dummy account. You might not get this, but I'm going to go ahead and click save. All right. And then after that, you're going to go to my application and it should look something like this. I'm going to go to these in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and go over personal information. All right. So it's going to give me, the release statement, basically saying that the Cal State Apply application can collect your information, that you're not lying about any of the information you're submitting, that this is all truthful, and that the universities that you're submitting your application to can contact you if they need to, which of course you do want them to contact you. All right, so this is also really important for many of you folks who might have at one point, maybe gotten married or divorced or had, a name change during undergrad. Do you have any materials under another name? So maybe you might want to select yes. Say, for example, maybe you got married. And then here, you might want to select maybe John got married and his former name is John because this is John Doe, right? So his previous name was John Deere, right? Or maybe John has a dead name. If you're familiar with that terminology, maybe John's dead name was Jane. All right. So it's really important that because maybe John has transcripts with his dead name on it, and so he wants to make sure that those transcripts are located or that they're processed properly. So it's really important, maybe again, you got married, or you have your maiden name or your bachelor's name. Is it John? So make sure that if you have that situation going on, that you appropriately select that choice and that you appropriately pick that and fill that out if that pertains to you, if that's your situation. Do you have a name, first, middle, that you commonly use that differs from your legal name? And click yes. Maybe John goes by Johnny, right? So again, if that pertains to you, or if you have like a preferred name that differs, like say, for example, John hasn't had a legal name change, and John prefers, the pronouns she, her, hers, and the preferred name is Jane. So just kind of those kinds of things. If that's your situation, then by all means, please go ahead and do that. What is your legal sex? That's obviously, biological. And what do you consider yourself to be? Make sure you fill out those, however that pertains to you, make sure you fill that out. So John's birthday is January 1st, 1990. John lives in the US, Los Angeles, California, Los Angeles County. I have reviewed this information. It's all accurate. So again, make sure you're filling out however that pertains to you. So make sure you're filling out your permanent address. So John is at 5151 State University Drive, Los Angeles, California, Los Angeles County. I always tell students, if you are living away from your parents because you're at university, if you're away at college, put your parents' address, just to make things easier. I put here Cal State LA's address because that was the first address that came to mind, just for all of you folks who are asking. But yeah, so make sure you put an address that you consider your permanent address, not your mailing address. So your mailing address might be the address you're currently living at, but your permanent address might be your parents' address. So just keep that in mind. So citizenship and residency. So this might pertain to a couple of you, and I'll go ahead and go over this section because it's really important. This section, and I believe the following section. And if this kind of pertains to you, you don't have to say anything. Select the value that best describes your US citizenship. So here, if you're a US citizenship, of course, select US citizen. If you are a resident and you have a green card or you're a permanent resident, select that one if that's what pertains to you. If you have none, if you don't have any, status, then you click none. It's gonna ask you what country. Of course, select the one that pertains to you. We're gonna say that John is from Mexico. If you were born outside of the US, what year did you or will you move to the US? You don't have to put anything. Only the choices and asterisks will you have to put anything, okay? And then moving down, it's going to say what US state possession do you regard as your permanent home? It's already there. Do you claim California residency? You're going to click yes. Have you lived in California continuously since birth? Of course, you're going to select no. When did your present stay in California begin? You can put an estimate if that's what pertains to you. All right. If of course, you select if the other choices pertain to you, you won't have that. Of course, that's how that works. With that one, you select, country of citizenship. I keep passing it. And then, of course, you enter the appropriate information that pertains to you. All right, so for this one, I'm going to go ahead and click none once more. And again, and I have reviewed this information. Continue to next section. So here it asks about race and ethnicity. With regard to your ethnicity, do you consider yourself Hispanic or Latino? Again, select which one pertains to you. John will select yes. He is Mexican, and he considers himself white Mexican, so white Latino. So California State University often needs to report only one summary of race and ethnicity description for a person. So again, Hispanic or Latino. So say it continues to the next section. Again, this is pretty standard, but this section is really important. Your designated programs may require your social security number for institutional or federal financial aid forms. Do you have a US social security number? If you do not have one, do not enter anything. You click no and you acknowledge that you do not have one. If you have one, then you enter it. But if you do not, you do not enter one, okay? So just to make that clear, don't enter one if you don't have one, okay? So again, what is your first language? John says Spanish. What is your academic standing? Are you in good standing with the last school you attended? Again, you have to be in good academic standing with the last school you attended. So most of you, probably all of you, will be selecting yes. Have you ever been disciplined for academic performance? Again, I'm going to go ahead and make these things clear. These two, selecting yes will not hurt your application. I'm going to just make that clear. And I'll be very transparent as to why. I was actually on academic probation, maybe like the entire first half of my undergraduate career. I was even academically disqualified with a 1.51 GPA. And it goes back to the whole conversation of there are students who don't think they can get into grad school with a 2-point-something GPA. I graduated from my undergrad with a 2.24 GPA. But I did really pretty good for the last 2 years of my undergrad. And that's what helped me get into grad school. So again, selecting yes on these will not hurt you. It does ask you to explain, but it does not hurt you. All right. So just to kind of ease the strain of selecting yes or say, oh, do I have to lie on this? It doesn't hurt you. Because again, even when you send in your transcripts, it does summarize at the end of like each one, like academic probation, academic probation, academic probation, academic disqualification. So just make sure like your transcripts will say it either way. So it's just better to be upfront about it. Like don't feel like you have to lie. If that's the situation you've been in, just make sure that you're honest about it. It doesn't hurt your application. Just make sure, you know, you're talking there about it. Maybe COVID was a reason, you know, that you were on academic probation, just say that. And it's okay. Here it's going to ask, select your interest in obtaining your teacher or other educational credential. I'm not interested. If you're not, then that's totally okay. If you are, then that's totally cool. A lot of students ask, do you need a teaching credential to teach at a community college or university? You do not. So you just need a master's degree to teach at a community college or a university. If you want to be tenured, you need a PhD at a university. At a community college, you don't need a PhD, although it is preferred, just to make things clear, if you plan on teaching at a community college and being tenured. Do you have an RN license? And if you do, then you enter that. If not, then that's totally okay. How did you hear about Cal State Apply? Enter that, and then next. And then here, you just enter financial information. This doesn't hurt your application or your financial aid. This is just the CSU wants to know the background. Were you born before 1991 or 1999, sorry? And John was, automatically he selects this one. Read these step by step by step. Many of you haven't reached the part where you're like born before this. If for those of you who have, select this. Every year it'll update. So next year it might say 2000. And then that's where some of you will like select this one. So if you see, you know, one that applies to you automatically, select this one. If not, then you select this. But one thing to remember is that on your financial aid, as a grad student, you are considered independent. So even if your parents claim you on their taxes, you're still considered independent, just to make things clear. John is single, doesn't have kids. He's single, just lives by himself. Household of one. No children. That's how much he makes a year. No extra income that he doesn't report. Doesn't talk to his parents, so does not apply. So he's not going to put anything there. That's it for him. You might have a different situation. Your situation might be different, so none of these apply. How many people do your parents basically claim on their taxes? Say, for example, maybe you have 2 siblings, your parents, and so it's maybe 4. And so maybe your parents make, you know, that much. But, you know, for John, that's his. All right, so here we've moved on to the next section. So my application, we're on academic history. Okay, so that's where this section is. And so a lot of students have already come to this section. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these so we can kind of be on the same page. And I've kind of created a couple different scenarios. So there are people who maybe they've attended like 7 community colleges, or they have several degrees from several community colleges, or they took 1 summer class at 1 community college. But let's start off with Fullerton. Say you were a transfer student. Did you obtain, or are you planning to obtain a degree from this college or university? Yes. Degree info, degree in progress. Most of you will be selecting this. I'm assuming all of you. What type of degree are you planning to earn? So most of you will select like Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science. When will you earn that degree? So it'll be May 2022. Many of you will be selecting like May 2023 next year when you apply, but you know, May 2022. What is your major? I always just select psychology just because it's, you know, more interesting to scroll all the way down to see, you know, all the options. Minor, American Studies. That's what I always do. And then we're on the semester system, in state tuition. And then we're going to go ahead and select first semester. He started 2 years ago, so that would be fall, August of 2020. Last semester, check. Oh, so if you are currently still attending, you don't enter anything here. You select this one. Check if you're still attending this college or university. All right. So if you're still attending when you apply, you select that one. You only fill out this section if you've already graduated. So save. All right. And then so say, for example, John transferred in. So he attended Santa Ana, right? And he got his associate's degree for transfer. Degree awarded, associate's degree for transfer, if I can find that. All right, when did he earn that degree? So that was May. And that was in psychology. The little bar from, with the, you know, when you screen share this, like that bar, it keeps hiding everything. So sorry about that. And no minor. So some students, they say, well, what if I earn multiple degrees from one community college? So say, for example, maybe you earn like 2 associate's degrees or 3 from a community college, you select add another degree. And it asks you degree awarded, and that's what you would do. If you didn't, then that's okay. Semester, in-state tuition, first semester, let's just say maybe he transferred in from another community college or he was there for a year. So fall of 2019 until spring of, that was May 2020, right? Save. And then add another college or university. Maybe he was a little bit like me. Maybe he attended another CSU when he first started, or maybe he took a summer course at a community college. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and say he attended Mount Sac. All right, and he attended he did summer course. So summer, June 2019. He was only there for a semester. All right, and before that, maybe he was at all right, so some people have, you know, that where they attend multiple schools and they have a different history, a different academic history. And so, you know, you would enter every single institution that you've ever attended. So make sure that, you know, you're very thorough, you're being, even if it was just like one class, you would enter all of that. So once you've done all that, once you've entered your every single college or university you've ever attended, you're gonna wanna go ahead and go to the section where it says GPA entries. On your transcripts, and you don't, so you're gonna enter where it says credit hours. A lot of students would get kind of confused with credit hours. So just kind of to clear things up, credit hours is just a number of units. So you know how like unit of measurement, they use like feet or miles to measure distance. So to measure a course, they use credit hours because credit hours is how much, like 3 units. 3 hours is how much you spend in a class per week. So that's what credit hours means, so units. So say, for example, that's why they call it a 3-unit class or a 4-unit class or 2-unit class. That's how many hours per week you spend in that class. But say, for example, he's spending 60 units. That's how many units he's taken, and his GPA is a 3.5. So when you enter those units, it's going to say, it's going to match up, because on your transcripts, when you look at just a CSUF GPA, you're going to enter that 60 for units earned. So it's not going to be the total units, it's just units earned or GPA units. And you're going to enter the GPA, and then this will automatically calculate, and it should say 210, just kind of an example, and it'll automatically generate. That's how you know that you entered things right. Save and exit. We're gonna enter Santa Ana. He was there for about, I think, a year, right? So undergraduate, so he was there 30 units, again, so 3.25, and that should match up again. So there's GPA units. All right, save and exit. So Mount Sac, he was there for summer, so he only took 3 units. His GPA, he got a B, so 3.0. Undergraduate, save and exit, and then add GPA. So undergraduate, he only earned half the units of he took. So he took 30 units, he only earned half, he got 1.51. Kind of just give you an example. All right, save and exit. So standardized tests, maybe your program doesn't require it. Even if your program does or doesn't, many programs don't really care that you enter them here. They just want them to submit them directly to them. So I'm not adding any standardized tests, all right? So once you're here, you're gonna be over here now. You've completed the first 2 sections. Supporting information is experiences. Many programs, they don't really care. And I'm gonna just say that they don't really care that you add things or you don't add things. They are going to have you submit program materials either on the 4th quadrant or directly to the program. So we're not going to add anything here. And we're done with that section. Here is where we get to like the really nitty-gritty stuff. This is where you're going to be submitting everything. And so I have a couple different programs that I've already kind of added. And so the first one is a really good example of when you upload everything directly to Cal State Apply. This is what it's going to look like. And not every program is like this. There are a couple programs where you have to upload things to an external website, or you send things like via email. So I'll kind of show you what those look like too, but let me show you this one first. So here it's going to ask you, and this one also shows a priority deadline. So priority deadline for this one was on December 15th. They're still accepting applications until March 1st, but the people who accepted or who submitted by December 15th get priority for this program. Again, not every single program has a priority deadline. So this is just this program. But for the questions, it does say, this is a COVID vaccine acknowledgement, but it does also ask additional information regarding the program. So it does have all these things here for you to fill out. It does have a section for you to upload all your documents, so CV, resume. So remember the experiences section, they don't really care that that's filled out. They want the CV or resume here. They want you to submit everything here. So some programs are like that. Statement of purpose. So it doesn't want a personal statement. It wants a statement of purpose. Like, why do you want, or what do you plan on doing with this degree? Unofficial transcripts, other additional unofficial transcripts, if you have them, if that's the case with you. All right. And then recommendations. A lot of people have questions. Well, what about my letters of recommendation? Where do I submit those? This program requires 2, and you can only upload 2. Some programs, again, will allow for up to, say they require 2, but they may allow for 3, or they require 3, but they may allow for 4. So when you request it, you click the plus sign, you enter first name, last name, their email, and then you can even request a due date. Say, for example, you know that the application is due the 1st of March, you can set the deadline for the 25th. That way they know, okay, the student wants it the 25th, and then that way you don't have to worry about, say, okay, well, I'm stressing out because they haven't submitted their letter of recommendation, but you can also go back once you've submitted it and click edit and resend the email. So that's really cool about Cal State Apply. A lot of programs, if you're submitting it externally, they don't do that. So it's kind of the nice thing about having everything on Cal State Apply, if your program does allow for that. And then one important thing is to waive your right of access. So that means that once they submit their letter, you won't be able to see it. And a lot of professors will not write you a letter if you don't waive your rights. So it's important that you do waive your rights. And then make sure that you give permission and understand that you're allowing for schools to contact them if they need to. And that's what a program like that has everything on Cal State Apply looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and select communication studies, and that's a really good example of where you submit everything by email. And so when you go to, for example, my application here, right, and go to Fullerton, it's gonna ask you, if you have already answered this, it's gonna say, I have acknowledged the review of this message, basically COVID vaccine. And the only thing it's gonna ask you to submit here is the letter of recommendation requests. Everything else, if you read, remember how I said to look at this home tab for program materials. This gives you all the information of how to submit your materials. It says, thank you for applying for the MA program in Communication Studies at California State University, Fullerton. Once you apply through Cal State Apply, which is this website, your next step is to submit the materials directly to the department via email, not hard copy, to comstudiesapply@fullerton.edu. Before your file is complete and can be reviewed, you will need to provide the department with the following materials via email as Microsoft Word or PDF attachments. Letter of intent, which is a statement of purpose. Writing sample, please submit a scholarly paper, ideally a research paper such as a lit review or proposal from an upper division course that you have written, no group papers. The writing sample should be substantial enough to demonstrate your writing, reasoning, and research ability. If you do not have 10 to 20 page sample, multiple shorter samples should be provided. A teaching associate application form if you are interested in applying to be a TA. Copies of transcripts, so it doesn't have to be official, just unofficial is fine. For letters of recommendation, see notes below, which again, letters of rec are uploaded here. So this is a good example of those programs. The business programs are a good example as well, because business programs, let me show you. When you go here, it only has 2 tabs, right? And it says the College of Business and Economics Supplemental Application. Additionally, the College of Business requires graduate school applicants to submit a supplemental application, which includes submission of statement of purpose, resume, 2 copies of official transcripts from colleges attended, and an official copy of your GRE or GMAT scores. Please visit the Business Graduate Application Information page for more information on submitting all requirements. Applications will not be processed until all documents have been submitted. And when you go here, right? So how to apply. So it says, upon submission of the Cal State Apply application, you will receive an email with a unique link and instructions on how to complete our supplemental application. So you won't even get that link until you submit this part. So it's important that you pay attention, and this is why it's important to read this single page. Every single program on this version of their page has the step-by-step instructions. So they tell you to go on that link. And this link has this. Because the first step is to complete this, which you would have already done. And then step 2 is this. All right. Does anyone have any questions about their specific program, perhaps? I know that, for example, if you're looking to apply to counseling or social work, their programs have separate external websites. For example, if you look at MSW and you're applying to theirs, let's see. You would go here and you apply it to MSW there. For their program, as far as that goes, I'm not quite sure how the program goes. I know that it's called the let me see. So it's called Evening Flex. So I think it's a go at your own pace kind of a thing. But this is like social work. So you have to create an account. You submit the Cal State Apply portion, then you go here. This is where you submit all your documents, your unofficial transcripts, your prerequisites, your letters of recommendation, everything gets submitted here. Same thing with counseling. It's very similar to this website. For business, if you look at business, so the flexible MBA, it's 3 courses per semester, each course offered 1 night per week. All right. And then I don't know what other programs you folks have questions about, because I know that there are, again, different different programs. Again, this is social work. The counseling program also does the same thing with this program. With comm disorders is a whole different ballpark. Because again, you submit this portion, the Cal State Apply portion, you pay for that, and then you go onto CSDCAS, and you have to submit this application. So it's really important, and it'll say that on the for example, their page on this application. I want to go, for example, on the communication studies for Long Beach. They have this deadline that's February 15th, and they say, okay, we'll start looking at applications on February 15th, and those students will get prioritized, but students can submit up until April 15th. And so it's basically saying that there's no guarantee that students will get in after February 15th, but you will still take applications. So it kind of sucks for students who will submit after, because it kind of gets their hopes up. So just kind of letting you know that to make sure you read those fine details on those websites. So yes, you still have to apply through Cal State Apply, but you have to, if you're doing single subject, I know that you have to meet and you have to go to a workshop. So I believe even if you're applying for multiple subjects, there are workshops you have to attend before you can even apply, because they go through their own step-by-step process on how you apply. I actually was meeting with a student yesterday. So it's a single subject. If you're looking for, let's see. Are you interested in elementary, or are you looking for a second or single subject? Okay, so yeah, single subject. That was a page I was just on. So so you need to attend a workshop. So you must attend an overview, and detailed information is provided. Program options and the application process. This overview is approximately an hour and a half. No RSVP is required. So I'm gonna go ahead and post this link for you, but before you apply to the program, you have to do that. So anyone who might be interested in a credential program, that's what you need to do. So for liberal studies for elementary credentials, let me go ahead and do that. So again, the same process applies. You have to attend an overview, and they guide you step by step. And so for Masters of Counseling, it's very similar to how the so this is a website where you go for MS in counseling. You would start on the Cal State Apply, and then once you finish there, you go onto their department website, which looks a little bit like this. So you submit everything on Cal State Apply, which it's basically just everything we went over today. And then this is like their own portal. You create your own account. For psychology, so clinical psychology, let me find that. So you would submit the department application. It's a statement of purpose, 3 letters of recommendation, transcript of all previous coursework. You have to submit a GRE. So the GRE is basically like the SATs for grad school. It's a minimum of a 3.0 in psychology courses, 2.5 GPA in the last 60 units, and overall GPA of 2.5. You have to have supervised clinical experience for the clinical psych program, just to kind of break that down. But this is the clinical psychology. If you're interested in the, sorry, I think this is what I want to do. That. And this is the counseling. But you still have to submit this portion. All right, any other questions about any other specific programs? Again, I want to make sure you folks have all the answers that you might have about your program. Because I know it can kind of be confusing. Again, many programs have everything that you upload straight to Cal State Apply, but there are very programs that you upload everything like to different websites, or you send it via email, or you can't even do anything. So social work, I think I went over it. So you upload everything again to Cal State Apply, and then again, they have their own website. So if you're on the social work website, it looks a little like this: admission to the Master of Social Work program, right? And so the application deadline was January 14th, 2022 for fall. But again, they have like their own portal. So it looks like the counseling website, like this. So business administration, that's the one where you apply through Cal State Apply, and they email you the link to upload everything. So again, I was on there earlier, I think. Yeah, so this is this one. For business administration. You apply through Cal State Apply, and they basically email you a link. You upload any documents that they might need. So again, it's the statement of purpose, leadership or creativity statement, professional resume, and letters of recommendation, which not all programs need them, but they might recommend that you submit them. Your GRE scores, and it tells you basically everything that you need. Okay.